Hello, everyone. It's Chrissy and Tanner from Common Sense Education. We're here, just like we are every Tuesday, to tell you about a tool that we think might be useful, interesting, illustrative. I'll try to think of more adjectives. Amazing. That's all I have. So come see us at Common Sense Education for more tools and other resources. And in the meantime, Tanner's here. It's his turn, and he's going to tell us about a tool today. Tanner, what is it?
I have a rare tool for you that I think is one of a kind. We look at a lot of ed tech over on Common Sense Education, but I cannot think of another tool like equity maps. It solves a very unique problem, or maybe offers a very unique solution to something that every teacher does, which is, I hope, which is host discussion in their classroom. This is a tool that's been around for a bit. We just updated our review based on some things that the developer changed. From what I gather, this is kind of a passion project for this developer as well, which is always nice to see. We gave this a 3-star review. We would recommend this tool, but there are some caveats, and it might be a little tricky to implement, but I think with thoughtful use, it could be really special. It is a paid tool, but nicely, there's no subscription fee for this app. You either pay the $1.99 to get a version of it that supports 20 people in your discussion, or pay $9.99 for up to 40, plus some special nice features, which I'll talk about. The issue with this is it's really tough to demo, though, because this is an app and it is best used in a classroom with an active discussion. But I'm going to do my best to illustrate this thing. The basic premise is this is a thing that you put on your iPad or on your Mac computer, and you use to track a discussion as it's happening, so that you can kind of analyze how the discussion went and perhaps apply different lenses onto that discussion, like how were people participating, who was talking, and maybe use that to improve your facilitation or do kind of an equity analysis of the types of students that are talking and how you might, make those discussions more equitable and have more people participating more productively. So it's pretty simple to use. You essentially select from a few kind of templates for how your classroom might be set up. You add your students, and you can also add identity markers for those students. So there's a baked in sort of gender split where you can have, and it's kind of, they use restroom sort of symbols, here, but you can have basically men, women, or non-binary students. You then name those students. You can add also custom identity markers if you might be tracking whatever, right? From ethnicity, or maybe people who participate in sports or don't. I don't know. Whatever you're thinking about. And then you place those students as you would as they're seated in the classroom. And then as the discussion goes on, you can record what's happening. And then as students talk, you tap on them as they're talking to kind of track who's participating. And this is all recorded, so it can be played back, and then you can see how the discussion sort of played out. You can also, as the discussion is going on, use these other buttons, which, there's the ever useful chaos button when a discussion is untrackable. But there are also ones for pair share when, maybe the sort of your facilitation strategy has changed and this really isn't applicable anymore. There's a silence button. There's a button for when there's media, or there's also a teacher talk button when you're doing your talking. The premium version also has a check notes feature, which maybe I can show here. Is a kind of cool new thing that they've added where you can track. Here's an example of it. You can track. Oh, there we go. Positive behaviors, as well as some negative ones, but mostly positive. And it's just another way to sort of add extra little notation and detail. So there's ask a closed-ended question or asks a question in general. So it provides an extra dimension, I think, to the tracking, which could be really useful. But that's part of the premium feature. And you can see these, how this map is really cool. I don't know maybe how useful that is overall, but it's neat. And after the discussion, you can play it back, and you see on the right there, that's kind of every time you've tapped something, and you can actually go back, tap on that, and replay from that moment, and you hear the recording. So you could really do a deep dive. You can also adjust the playback speed when you're playing back. You can also add notes while you're playing back. And then you get, at the end, a nice little dashboard that tracks a lot of analytics that can be useful to sort of do your assessment. So the two main things that are being tracked are the number of times people are speaking, as well as the time total they're speaking. But of course, you've got all those other notations, and it might be useful also to see how much time you spoke versus your students. And then you can also do, student by student tracking. You can then add notes to the students. It's really a lot of kind of cool data. The gender equity is definitely a core component of the post discussion analysis. It seems like that maybe was the motivation initially, but now with the other identity markers, you can look at a lot more. Really good dashboard, I would say. I think the tricky thing with this is it really requires skilled facilitation on the part of a teacher. I could see this. I could see maybe teachers having a hard time setting this up initially and then using it and getting distracted while you're using it. Our reviewer, Marianne Rogowski, actually pointed out that it might be best to have students use this and track it so the teacher can focus on facilitation. She found it a little distracting to use during discussion. And I also think that the insights you draw from this will require real skillful analysis so that, as any teacher knows and let me stop sharing there. As any teacher knows, when you're facilitating a discussion, the reason someone may be speaking or not can be deceptive, right? And I think I could see use of this app maybe leading teachers down the wrong path. But if you're used as a reference and a tool to kind of start an analysis as extra information, it could be handy. And just to kind of maybe do an audit of how things are going and if your instincts are correct around things. But what really sticks out is and Chrissy, I'm wondering if you can think of anything. I cannot think of anything that I've seen even close to like this.
Yeah, I do. I feel like maybe I've seen one other tool that tracks participation in some way, but this is the one that I always think of when it comes to trying to track who's talking and for how long. But I totally agree that, depending on how you use that data, it, how often somebody pipes up and for how long isn't necessarily a great measure of
Yeah.
the value of what they're contributing, et cetera. And so it does take some nuance, I think, to really dig down. But I know as a teacher, when I was videotaped, and then I did always notice things that I was surprised by that I wouldn't have necessarily in the moment been aware of because I was just so, just in my groove doing my thing. So I could see how it would be helpful, and maybe having students rotating it around here and there, and having students help you out would be maybe a good way to go about this.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
$10.99 for everything.
$9.99,
$9.99 for
but
everything.
no subscription.
Yeah, that's great.
And one thing I wondered too when we're doing the review was, it feels like this is a tool that you would have to introduce. And I do like the idea of having students do the tracking, because I think they would get real insight by doing the tracking. I think they would end up reflecting on themselves in interesting ways.
Yeah.
But it feels like something you'd have to use fairly regularly to get to a point at which you're tracking truly authentic discussion and not
Right.
performance for
Yes.
the app.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. So useful, and also with nuance. Absolutely. All right. Well, make sure you come back, subscribe, and we'll be here again next Tuesday. Hop on over to Common Sense Education and see all the other resources that we have for you. Sign up for our newsletter, so you can just get it delivered right into your inbox every week. And we will see you very soon. And I'm looking for the end bumper. Here it is. All right. Thanks for joining us.